The restaurant manager thought he had put me in my place, throwing me out like unwanted trash. To him, I was just another nobody who didn't belong in their elite circle. But little did he know, the person he humiliated in front of everyone was the one holding the keys to everything he worked so hard to protect. Now it's time to show what happens when you mess with the wrong person. But let's start from the very beginning of this story. If you thought things were heated before, buckle up, because what happened next was straight out of a soap opera, only with less crying and way more fallout. Let's just say by the time I was done, Le Chateau was trending for all the wrong reasons. And Arthur? Well, his smug little empire was about to come crumbling down. The day after the video went viral, I walked into the restaurant, not as yesterday's unwelcome guest, but as myself. Freshly shaved, wearing a sharp navy suit with cufflinks that probably cost more than Arthur's monthly paycheck. The contrast couldn't have been more dramatic. As I pushed open the door, the familiar scent of overpriced truffle oil hit me, along with a wave of awkward silence. Everyone stopped what they were doing to stare. Kelly's jaw practically hit the floor. And Arthur? Let's just say he looked like he'd seen a ghost. "Oh, look who decided to dress up," Arthur said, trying to recover. "How can I help you today?" His tone dripped with sarcasm, but the beads of sweat on his forehead told me everything I needed to know. He wasn't as confident as he wanted to seem. Perfect. "I'm not here to eat," I said, taking my time as I looked around the restaurant. "I'm here to check on my investment." Arthur blinked. "Your what?" I let the words sink in before dropping the hammer. "I own this place. Well, technically, my company does, but you get the idea." You could have heard a pin drop. Kelly froze mid-step, her face a mix of shock and panic. Arthur, on the other hand, went through about 5 emotions in 2 seconds: confusion, disbelief, anger, and then something that looked a lot like regret. "This is some kind of joke," Arthur said, forcing a laugh. "Right?" "No joke," I replied, pulling out my phone and showing him the official ownership documents. "See for yourself." Arthur's smirk melted faster than ice cream in July. The color drained from his face as he realized the guy he'd thrown out not once, but twice was the one signing his paychecks. For a moment, I thought he might faint. "Let's talk about yesterday," I continued, keeping my voice calm but firm. "I came in here twice, and both times you treated me like garbage. Why? Because I didn't look the part? Because I didn't fit your idea of what a customer should be?" Arthur stammered. I didn't know it was you." "That's the point," I cut him off. "It shouldn't matter who I am. Every customer deserves respect, whether they're wearing a suit or..." I gestured to a nearby diner in jeans and a hoodie. "That." Kelly stepped forward, looking like she wanted to disappear. "Mr. Taylor," I held up a hand. "Save it. You and I both know this isn't just about one bad day. It's a pattern, and it stops now." By now, the entire restaurant was watching, phones out and recording. I knew this moment would end up online, and honestly, I was counting on it. Public accountability has a way of making people rethink their choices. "Here's what's going to happen," I announced, turning my attention back to Arthur. "Effective immediately, you're relieved of your duties. Consider this your last day as manager." Arthur's eyes widened. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I'm dead serious," I said, my tone ice cold. "Your actions don't align with the values of this business, or me. So pack up your office and don't let the door hit you on the way out." The room erupted in hushed whispers, with a few scattered cheers from diners who had clearly been waiting for this moment. With Arthur gone, I turned to Kelly. Her face was pale and she looked like she might cry. "You have 2 options," I said, my voice softer but still firm. "You can either take this as a wake-up call and do better, or you can leave too. It's up to you." She nodded quickly. "I'll do better, I promise." "Good," I said, turning back to the crowd. "Because starting today, this restaurant is going to change. No more judging people based on appearances. No more turning away customers because they don't fit the vibe. Everyone deserves to be treated with dignity. Got it?" A round of applause broke out, and I couldn't help but smile. It wasn't just about fixing what was broken, it was about building something better. By the time I left, the energy in the restaurant had completely shifted. Arthur was gone. Kelly looked like she'd been handed a second chance, and the diners were buzzing with excitement about what had just happened. As I walked down the street, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride, not just in standing up for what's right, but in knowing that I'd made a difference. Later that night, another video hit the internet. Owner of Le Chateau fires wood manager in front of everyone. The views skyrocketed, and the comments were overwhelmingly supportive. Finally, someone who gets it. This is how you lead by example. Arthur got exactly what he deserved. And just like that, but then a simple experiment turned into a lesson that no one at Le Chateau would forget anytime soon. All right, here's where things started to get interesting. If the first encounter with Arthur and his squad of judgmental stares was a slap in the face, the second time felt more like a full-on shove. And trust me, I wasn't about to take it lying down. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let me walk you through it. The next day, I doubled down on the disguise. If yesterday's version of me looked like a guy who lost his wallet, today's version looked like he'd lost the whole year. My shirt had a fresh rip down the side, and my sneakers were so beaten up, they practically squeaked with every step. I even carried an old backpack I found in the attic, stuffed with newspapers for that authentic world on my shoulders vibe. As I approached Le Chateau, I could already feel the tension in the air. You know that sensation when people see something they don't want to deal with, so they pretend it doesn't exist? Yeah, that. A couple walking by literally crossed the street to avoid me. Good start. Inside, the restaurant was its usual picture of over-the-top elegance. Chandeliers sparkled, waiters glided between tables, and the scent of truffle oil filled the air. But as soon as I stepped in, it was like someone hit the mute button on a party. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Heads turned. Even the piano player missed a note. And there she was, Kelly, the hostess extraordinaire, already narrowing her eyes like she'd spotted a stain on the carpet. Before I could even open my mouth, she was in front of me, blocking the way. "Didn't we have this conversation yesterday?" she said, crossing her arms. "I'm pretty sure we did." "Yeah, about that," I said, trying my best to look harmless. "I still want to eat. Is that a crime?" Kelly didn't even blink. "It is when you're disrupting paying customers." Cue Arthur, storming out of the back like he was on a mission. The guy must have had a radar for people he thinks don't belong, because he was in my face in seconds. "You again?" he said, glaring at me. "Didn't I make myself clear yesterday?" "Crystal," I replied, keeping my voice even. "But I thought maybe today you'd reconsider." Arthur's laugh was short and sharp, like a door slamming shut. "We have standards here, and you're not meeting them." Now here's where things got messy. As Arthur spoke, more people started paying attention. A guy in a suit whispered something to his date. A group of women at a corner table kept glancing over, their expressions a mix of curiosity and disgust. And of course, someone had their phone out, recording the whole thing. Perfect. "I'm not causing trouble," I said, raising my hands like I was surrendering. "I just want a seat, a menu, and maybe some breadsticks. Is that really too much to ask?" Arthur's face turned red, but before he could respond, one of the waiters, bless his soul, stepped forward. He looked nervous, but there was a flicker of decency in his eyes. "Maybe we should just let him sit," the waiter said. "It's not like he's hurting anyone." Arthur shot him a glare so icy it could have frozen the truffle oil. "Do you work here, or do you want to start a charity? Because we don't do charity." The waiter backed off, muttering something under his breath. Arthur turned back to me, his smirk firmly in place. "Last chance," he said. "Leave, or I'll call the cops." At that moment, I noticed a young couple near the door, watching everything unfold. The guy looked uncomfortable, like he wanted to step in but didn't know how. The girl, on the other hand, had her phone pointed right at us, recording every word. I gave her a slight nod, let her get the whole show. "Fine," I said, backing toward the door. "I'll leave, but you should probably work on that customer service thing. It's not a great look." Arthur didn't even respond. He just turned on his heel and marched back into the dining area like he'd just won a trophy. Kelly gave me one last dismissive glance before returning to her post. Outside, I sat down on a bench across the street, pulling out my phone. Within minutes, the girl from the restaurant posted the video. The caption? "Rude manager kicks out man just trying to eat." And just like that, the world started watching. By the time I got home, the video was already picking up steam. Comments poured in, and they weren't exactly kind to Arthur. How can people be so heartless? This is why I hate fancy places. Somebody needs to teach this guy a lesson. I couldn't help but smile, but this wasn't over. Not even close. If Arthur thought he could sweep this under the rug, he was in for a surprise. So let me tell you how it all started, and trust me, you're gonna want to stick around for this one. My name's Jackson Taylor, and I'm not your average suit and tie guy. Sure, I'm 38, a millionaire, technically, billionaire. And yeah, I own one of the fanciest restaurants in town, Le Chateau. Sounds glamorous, right? Wrong. Because somewhere along the way, I realized something about people that hit me like a truck. They treat you differently when they think you're nobody. And I don't mean a little differently. I mean like dirt under your shoe different. One day I sat in my office staring out at the skyline like a scene from one of those cheesy movies where the hero contemplates life. Except I wasn't feeling heroic, more like frustrated. I kept thinking about how people, my people, the ones I pay, for crying out loud, might be treating others who didn't roll up in a designer car or drop tips that could pay someone's rent. Were they treating them fairly, respectfully, or like yesterday's trash? I decided I had to know for myself, not through a boring survey or some corporate consultant telling me what I wanted to hear. No, I needed to see it with my own two eyes. That's when it hit me. What if I ditched the tailored suits, Rolex watches, and perfectly polished shoes and walked into my restaurant looking like a guy who just spent the night under a bridge? Crazy? Maybe. But I've always been a fan of shaking things up. The next morning, I dug through my closet, not the good part, obviously. Way in the back, I found a couple of old shirts I hadn't worn since college. They smelled like dust and bad decisions, so I doused them in coffee for authenticity. I ripped one sleeve a little, scuffed up some sneakers I didn't even remember owning, and smeared some dirt on my face. Oh, and my hair. Let's just say it looked like I'd lost a fight with a hedge trimmer. Before I left, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror and almost didn't recognize the guy staring back. Mission accomplished. I walked up to the restaurant around noon when the lunch crowd was in full swing, the kind of people who have business meetings but spend more time Instagramming their food than eating it. As soon as I stepped inside, the air changed. You ever notice how people's eyes can talk louder than their mouths? Yeah, well, the looks I got screamed, "What are you doing here?" The hostess, Kelly, I think her name was, spotted me first. She was the type who looked like she practiced her smile in the mirror every morning, but the second she saw me, her face dropped so fast I almost heard it hit the floor. Excuse me, sir," she said, her voice dripping with fake politeness. "Are you lost?" Lost? Really? I knew exactly where I was. I owned the place, but I played along. "No, I'm here for lunch," I said, keeping my tone calm, like I didn't notice the judgment radiating off her like heat waves. Her smile turned into one of those tight, awkward ones, the kind you give when you're about to tell someone they don't belong. "I'm sorry, but we have a dress code. Perhaps you could try somewhere more casual?" Dress code? I almost laughed. The guy at the corner table was wearing a hoodie that cost more than most people's rent. But sure, let's talk about appearances. "I've got money," I said, pulling out a crumpled 20 I'd stuffed in my pocket. "See?" Her expression shifted from fake polite to straight up horrified. Before she could respond, the manager, Arthur Cross, swooped in like some kind of self-appointed sheriff of fine dining. Arthur was in his mid-40s, with a slicked-back haircut and the kind of smirk that made you want to wipe it off his face. He looked me up and down like I was something he stepped in. "Is there a problem here?" he asked Kelly, ignoring me completely. "This gentleman was just leaving," she said quickly, clearly hoping he'd back her up. "I wasn't going anywhere. Actually, I was just trying to order lunch." Arthur's smirk grew wider. "Sir, we have a certain standard here. I'm afraid I'll have to ask you to leave." Now I could have ended it right there. I could have told him who I was, watched him stumble over an apology, and walked out with a story to tell. But where's the fun in that? Instead, I leaned in, lowering my voice so only he could hear me. Is that how you treat all your customers, or just the ones who don't look like they belong? Arthur's smirk faltered for a split second, but he recovered quickly. I think you've overstayed your welcome. Kelly, please escort this gentleman out. Gentleman, right. Arthur didn't wait for Kelly to act. He grabbed my arm, not hard but enough to make a point, and steered me toward the door. The room went dead silent except for the faint clinking of silverware. A few people craned their necks to watch, some with curiosity, others with thinly veiled amusement. As I stepped outside, I turned back and caught Arthur's eye through the glass's door. He stood there for a moment, looking triumphant, like he'd just done his good deed for the day. Little did he know, this was just the beginning. How would you have handled this situation if you were in Jackson's shoes? Do you think firing Arthur was the right move? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you or someone you know ever faced something similar? Let us know how you dealt with it. Don't forget to give this story a like if it resonated with you and share it to spread awareness. This story was created to shed light on the importance of treating everyone with respect, regardless of appearances, and to inspire positive change in the world. Remember, your voice matters, and together we can make a difference.